They don't make them like they used to. And in the case of trucks from the 1990s and 2000s, that might be a blessing, unless you're behind the wheel of one of these. While today's pickups come with enough sensors to babysit a toddler, these old beasts just ask for gas, a key, and a little respect. In this video, we're digging into the absolute best trucks from that golden era, machines you should never sell, never disrespect, and probably never lend to your cousin Dave. Let's start with a legend that's probably outlived a few of your relationships. Let's talk about the Chevrolet Silverado 1500 from the GMT800 generation. Because if trucks were baseball players, this one would be batting .400 while towing a boat. Introduced in 1999, this Silverado was Chevrolet's answer to the growing demand for refinement without losing the ability to drag a mountain behind it. And guess what? It delivered. Design-wise, the GMT800 was a big departure from the boxier CK it replaced. With smoother lines and a more aerodynamic face, well, as aerodynamic as a brick with headlights can be, it looked modern without trying too hard. It was available in regular cab, extended cab, and crew cab, with short, standard, or long beds, meaning Chevrolet basically offered it in whatever flavor of utility you needed. Under the hood, you had options that could either sip gas politely or guzzle it like it was training for a demolition derby. The base models came with a 4.3-liter V6 making around 200 horsepower, but the real sweet spot was the 5.3-liter V8 Vortec. That thing made 285 to 295 horsepower and had enough torque to tow a trailer full of regrets. There was also a 6.0-liter V8 if you stepped up to the HD models, and even a beastly 8.1-liter in the 2500 HD and 3500 if you just wanted to flex on gravity. Fuel economy? Let's not pretend this is a Prius. The 5.3-liter V8 averaged around 14 miles per gallon city, 18 miles per gallon highway. Better if you didn't drive like a teenager. And while it drank regular gas, some models ran flex fuel, E85, which technically made you feel greener while getting even worse mileage. Win-win? Inside, you got that late 1990s General Motors plastic fantastic vibe, but it was comfy. Dual-zone climate control, compact disc players with cassette decks, for the mixtapes obviously, power everything, and in the later years, OnStar and optional leather that smelled like crushed ambition and trucker dreams. This Silverado was more than reliable, it was durable. People are still driving these things with over 300,000 miles, using them for farm work, hauling, commuting, and probably running from their responsibilities. The aftermarket is huge, parts are cheap, and the resale value? Still, holding strong if it's clean and rust-free. Good luck with that in the Rust Belt. In short, if you find one of these in good shape, don't sell it. Give it an oil change, a pat on the dash, and maybe a name. It earned it. This one didn't just change Dodge, it shook the entire truck world by the tailgate. The second-generation Dodge Ram 1500, launched in 1994, was basically a rolling middle finger to boring truck design. Up until this point, Dodge's pickups were more wallflower at prom than center of attention. But then came this Ram with its bold, big rig front end. It looked like a semi had a baby with a linebacker, and people loved it. Design-wise, this truck was a visual punch in the face. It introduced the now iconic crosshair grille and pumped-up fenders that gave it presence in your rearview mirror and your nightmares. It was offered in regular cab and club cab initially, with the quad cab joining the lineup in 1998. Bed sizes ranged from a standard 6.5-footer to an 8-foot version if you needed to haul lumber or questionable life decisions. Under the hood, Dodge gave you some spicy choices. Base models ran a 3.9-liter V6 with 175 horsepower, fine for grandpa runs, but most buyers went for the 5.2-liter, 318, or 5.9-liter, 360 Magnum V8 engines. The 5.9-liter, with its 245 horsepower and 335 pound-feet of torque, was the go-to if you wanted to tow, burn rubber, or just assert dominance at Home Depot. Fuel economy wasn't its forte. Expect around 12 to 14 miles per gallon city, maybe 16 highway, and worse if you sneeze near the gas pedal. Oh, and yes, it only drank gasoline. No flex fuel or diesel for the 1500. You had to jump to the 2500 to get that legendary Cummins. Inside? Think 1990s bachelor pad, but with seat belts. The interior was functional, sure, but don't expect soft touch anything. You got basic plastics, big knobs, and a bench seat that doubled as a nap zone. Higher trims like the SLT Laramie gave you power windows, air conditioning, cruise control, and that iconic white-faced gauge cluster, which looked like it came from a Dodge Viper that decided to settle down. The real charm of this truck wasn't luxury, it was attitude. It had swagger. It brought Dodge back into the truck game in a way that made Ford and General Motors look twice. The Ram 1500 also built a loyal fan base, and today, clean second gens are climbing in value. People love these things because they're tough, unapologetically American, and built during a time when Dodge was swinging for the fences. If you've got one with a solid frame and a non-leaking rear differential, you're already winning. It's not the most refined truck of the era, but it might be the most iconic. And that grille? Still cooler than half the trucks on the road today. You can't talk about trucks from the 1990s and 2000s without tipping your hat, or your cowboy hat more likely, to the 10th generation Ford F-150. This was the moment Ford decided to stop looking like a construction site on wheels and start flirting with suburbia. Launched in 1997, this F-150 brought a whole new vibe to the pickup game. Smoother lines, more comfort, and, controversially, a more car-like ride. And guess what? America bought it in droves. This was the first F-150 to ditch the old-school square-jawed look and go for curves. Some folks called it soft, others called it smart. The aerodynamics improved, the ride quality improved, and so did the sales. This truck dominated parking lots across the country, from work sites to Walmart, thanks to its blend of practicality and daily usability. You had regular cab, super cab, and eventually the four-door Super Crew, added in 2001, which basically said, yes, I have a family, but I still need to tow a boat. The engine lineup? Pretty much a buffet. The base was a 4.2-liter V6 with 202 horsepower, fine for hauling mulch, not so much for hauling ego. But the V8s? That's where the magic happened. The 4.6-liter Triton V8 pushed out 220 horsepower, but the real workhorse was the 5.4-liter Triton V8, making around 260 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. Not exactly drag strip numbers, but enough to tow over 8,000 pounds if you spec'd it right. And if you're into legends, let's not forget the SVT Lightning version, which came with a supercharged 5.4-liter putting down 380 horsepower. That wasn't just a fast truck, it was a pickup that ate Mustangs for breakfast. Fuel economy. The V6 gave you around 15 miles per gallon city, 20 highway. The 5.4-liter V8 hovered closer to 13 city, 17 highway, and dropped further if you had the Lightning and a heavy right foot. All models ran on gasoline only. No flex fuel or diesel shenanigans here. Inside, Ford really started to care about comfort. Higher trims got plush cloth or leather seating, dual climate zones, compact disc changers, when 6 discs felt luxurious, and steering wheels that didn't look borrowed from a tractor. And let's not skip over safety. This was one of the first trucks to really push crash testing performance, with dual airbags and anti-lock braking systems becoming more common across the lineup. The market still loves this generation, especially clean examples with low rust and low miles. The Triton engines had their quirks. Spark plug issues, anyone? But overall, these trucks are known for sticking around long after they should have retired. They're not rare, but they're respected. And if you find an SVT Lightning that hasn't been thrashed within an inch of its life, buy it, park it, brag about it. Now here's where things get interesting. The first-generation Toyota Tundra didn't show up to take over the truck market. It showed up to politely dismantle it, bolt by bolt. Launched in 2000, the Tundra was Toyota's first full-size pickup aimed directly at the big three, and while some folks dismissed it as just a bigger Tacoma, those people probably never drove one. Because once they did, they realized this thing was built like a Camry but pulled like a Ram. Let's talk looks. The design of the first-generation Tundra was conservative, almost shy. It didn't have the in-your-face attitude of a Dodge or the blocky bravado of a Silverado. But that's what Toyota was going for, something that blended in, got the job done, and didn't scream about it. It was available in regular cab, access cab, and double cab, added in 2004, all with smooth body lines and that unmistakably Japanese form follows function aesthetic. The real story was under the hood. Base models came with a 3.4-liter V6 making 190 horsepower, but most buyers wisely went for the 4.7-liter iForce V8. This engine was smooth, reliable, and made 245 horsepower and 315 pound-feet of torque, numbers that didn't break records but quietly got the job done for hundreds of thousands of miles. Paired with a 4-speed automatic, it was never flashy, but it was butter smooth and surprisingly quick for its class. And just to hammer home how overbuilt it was, this was the same V8 Toyota used in the Land Cruiser. Translation: it'll outlive your house. Gas mileage was surprisingly decent for a V8 full-sizer, around 14 to 15 miles per gallon city, 17 to 18 highway on gasoline. There were no diesel or flex fuel options here, just clean-burning Japanese consistency. Inside, Toyota went for comfort over flash. The materials felt solid, the build quality was miles ahead of what Ford and Dodge were doing at the time, and everything just worked. Even after 200,000 miles, the buttons still click, the dials still dial, and nothing rattles unless you left your lunch in the glove box. The SR5 and limited trims brought power windows, cruise control, decent stereos, and optional leather, and you could always count on Toyota's legendary attention to fit and finish. The market still treats these trucks like gold. Used car lots list clean first-generation Tundras at premium prices because owners know what they've got, and they're not letting go easily. Sure, it's not the biggest or baddest truck from the era, but it's one of the most dependable. You won't win any drag races, but you'll never be calling a tow truck either. In short, it's the truck you buy if you want to own one truck, forever. Alright, hear me out. The Chevrolet SSR wasn't exactly your typical truck. In fact, calling it a truck is like calling a mullet a haircut. Technically true, but you're missing the point. The SSR, Super Sport Roadster, was Chevrolet's wild eye. Experiment, part pickup, part convertible, part retro fever dream. It looked like a concept car that accidentally made it to production, and yet, somehow, it's become one of the most unique and collectible trucks of the 2000s. If weird is your love language, this one's for you. First impressions? The SSR looked like a 1950s Chevrolet advanced design truck that spent a semester abroad in Italy and came back wearing sunglasses. With its flared fenders, massive front grille, and power retractable hardtop, it turned heads whether you wanted it to or not. Available only as a 2-door roadster pickup, it had a covered cargo bed with a carpeted liner and wood slats, because who doesn't want a little Home Depot with their hot rod? Now let's talk power. Early SSRs, 2003 through 2004, came with a 5.3-liter Vortec V8, making 300 horsepower, which was fine. Not fast, not slow, just fine. But in 2005, Chevrolet saw the light and dropped in the Corvette-sourced 6.0-liter LS2 V8, bumping output to 390 horsepower. Even better? You could get it with a 6-speed manual. Yes, a manual transmission in a convertible pickup. That's either brilliant or bonkers, and we're here for both. This upgrade turned the SSR from quirky cruiser into a legitimate street performer. 0 to 60 miles per hour dropped to around 5.3 seconds, which isn't bad for a truck that weighs nearly 4,800 pounds and has the aerodynamics of a loaf of bread. Fuel economy? Not great, but did you really expect it to be? The LS2-equipped SSR got about 14 miles per gallon city, 18 highway. All models ran on premium gasoline because of course they did. Nothing about this truck is humble. Inside, it was all retro futuristic flair. Chrome-ringed gauges, body-colored interior panels, heated leather seats, a Bose sound system, and optional navigation, which today looks like a microwave. The interior was tight, this wasn't a work truck, but it was well crafted, especially compared to the plasticky cabins of other mid-2000s General Motors vehicles. And while it didn't sell in huge numbers when new, the SSR has found a cult following in the used market. Fewer than 25,000 were made across its production run, and clean, low-mile examples, especially those with the LS2 and manual, are climbing in value fast. It may not be the most practical truck, but it's definitely the most likely to be featured in a parade and a burnout competition. So should you sell it? Only if you hate attention, horsepower, and fun. When Nissan launched the Titan in 2004, they weren't just entering the full-size truck game. They were kicking down the door with steel-toed boots and yelling in a southern accent. Built in Mississippi and engineered for American truck buyers, the first-generation Titan didn't try to be a Toyota. It tried to be a Ford or a Chevrolet, with more attitude and fewer apologies. Right off the bat, the Titan looked like it meant business. Big, bold, and blocky, with massive headlights, aggressive wheel arches, and a front grille that seemed to sneer at you. Available in King Cab or Crew Cab, sorry, no regular cab here, the Titan focused on space, power, and hauling bravado. Bed, Sizes came in 5.5, 6.5, and 8-foot options, and the optional Utilitrack cargo system with adjustable tie-downs was years ahead of its time. But what really set the Titan apart was what Nissan crammed under the hood, a 5.6-liter endurance V8 engine that lived up to its name. Producing 305 horsepower and 379 pound-feet of torque, it delivered power like a sledgehammer to the back. Paired with a 5-speed automatic transmission and rear or four-wheel drive, the Titan could tow over 9,000 pounds depending on configuration. It even came with a factory tow package that included a lower final gear ratio and a transmission temperature gauge, because Nissan knew exactly what its buyers were doing with these trucks, working hard, or at least pretending to, on weekends. Fuel. Economy? Yeah, don't expect miracles. You were looking at 13 to 14 miles per gallon city, 17 to 18 highway, and the Titan was strictly a gasoline drinker. No diesel, no flex fuel, just pure, unleaded grunt. Step inside, and Nissan brought a bit of unexpected refinement. The interior was roomy, with wide front seats and a massive center console that could swallow a laptop or, let's be honest, several fast food bags. The dash design was clean, controls were big and glove-friendly, and higher trims like the SE. And LE brought power everything, upgraded stereos, leather seating, and even optional Rockford Fosgate audio. One cool quirk: the rear doors on King Cab models opened almost 180 degrees for easy access, which was pretty trick at the time. The Titan didn't outsell the F-150 or Silverado, but it built a loyal following thanks to its burly engine, solid handling, and no-nonsense toughness. It wasn't perfect. Early models had some brake and rear axle issues, but Nissan addressed most of them quickly, and well-maintained examples still hold their own today. In today's used truck market, the first-generation Titan is kind of a sleeper. It's not the flashiest, and it doesn't have a luxury badge, but it punches way above its price point. You want a V8 truck that hauls, rumbles, and doesn't cost your left kidney? This is it. Just don't sell it unless you've got something bigger, louder, or a serious reason, like a divorce. And even then, think twice.